Hello everyone, welcome back to On the Fly. Today we're predicting the entire 2025 Women's World Championship happening in Česká Budějovice, Czechia. So before we get too far into the video today, one quick thing. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our video that we made yesterday, which was a preview for this tournament. It'll be a lot more general than what we are doing today. Today will be more about the game-by-game breakdowns. Yesterday is more general oversight of the tournament. So if you want to get a better idea of what's going to be happening at this tournament, yesterday's video, which you can find in the description, will be really good. If you want to figure out what's the game-by-game we've been predicting is going to be, this one's the one for you. So let's talk about it. Starting with the opening games, and we'll get right into it today. Starting with probably one of the better games that we'll see into at least or tomorrow's games, I guess, depending on when you're watching this. But 5 a.m. April 9th, Germany plays Sweden, and this will be a game for me that I think will be surprised a lot of people. I was looking at the betting odds last night because I got bored, and it showed me that Germany was a heavy underdog, and I had to say I was a little surprised to see that. Just considering the fact that, Germany beat them last year, Abstrider stood on her head, but Germany played to the level that Sweden did and really competed enough, in my eyes, to at least deserve a closer margin. So for me, I was a little surprised to see sort of that drastic margin, more or less, if you want to call it that. But for me, I'm going to still take Germany. I'm going to stick with my gut here. I'm taking Germany 2-1 in this one. And I just think, when you look at the way Germany's constructed, they're not going to blow teams away. But what they're going to do is they're going to play a solid game of hockey. And Sweden, in my eyes, is just going to end up getting frustrated by that style. So you'll see it, especially if Sweden can get them on board early. Don't be surprised to see them run away with it. But if the game can remain close, Germany is a team that really is going to be able to play that tight style throughout the entire game. So don't be surprised to see them get a goal and hold it, because any lead Germany gets in this one is a dangerous lead at that. So for Germany, I'm going to take them 2-1 in this one, an early win, and it'll soon turn out to be a pivotal win in the Group B standings. We'll move on here to the second game of the day, coming up at 9 a.m. All times are in Eastern Standard Time. With the U.S. playing the Finns, I'm going to take the U.S. here 6-2. And in this game, I expect the U.S. to dominate most of the play. It's not the same Finland team we've seen in years past. There are quite a few returning members of it. But at the same time, this U.S. team has that extra year now of maturity, of development. And as a young team, we saw them last year at the Worlds. They just sort of had that extra gear that when they kicked it in, that U.S. team was a different breed. And I expect that we're going to see a little bit of that in this game coming up for this U.S. team. Finland is just going to try and hold on as long as they can. I don't think they're going to be able to do so. 6-2 is your final on that one for me. And then the third game of the day between host Czechs and Switzerland, 1:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to take the Czechs here 5-1. And in this game, once again, the Czechs on home ice having a pretty good record against the Swiss these last year or so. I do expect that to continue. I expect the Czechs. Czechs are a much better team this year. You're playing on home ice as well. Would not surprise me for this one to end up a 5-1 victory here for the Czechs. We'll move on to the next day here with April 10th. And once again, another three-day game or three-game day. We'll start here at 5 a.m. with Japan taking on Norway. I'm going to take Japan here 3-1. Japan, for me, once again, it's another one of those teams that aren't really going to blow you away on the score sheet, but they are going to compete the entire game, and that's really what this Japanese team is known for. I'm going to take a 3-1. I think they get the empty net as well, but they dominate for the majority of play here in my eyes. Norway gets a lucky one at some point during this game, but I think Japan still holds them off long enough to get the victory here, and they'll pick up their first win in this game. And in the second game of the day, we go with the 9 a.m. between Sweden and Hungary. This game, I do expect Sweden to really open it up and open up the ice. Hungary's going to try and trap this game away, as they've done so well these last few years, and especially we saw them at that qualifier, the Olympic qualifier. I expect them to try and sort of trap it away. I think just the way Sweden plays, we've seen it even last year. When Sweden was playing alongside some of the other weaker teams in Group B, where they're just able to open up that ice. And as soon as the ice gets opened up, everything falls apart for these weaker teams. And Sweden finds ways to get to the middle of the ice and capitalize on that. And you're going to see that, in my eyes, on this game on April 10th, where Sweden's just able to pick it up to that next level and find the empty space where for when we're talking about the Germany game, Germany is a team that's very good at limiting that, but they've played that structure and they're good at playing that structure. Hungary also very good playing that structure. However, they do find gaps at times, and I think that's where Sweden's really going to capitalize in this game. So I'm going to give them the 6-0 victory in that one. Then the third game between Canada and Finland, a tough open for Finland in this tournament, having to go the U.S. and Canada back to back. But I'm going to take Canada once again here, 5-1 as the winner. But for Canada, this is a game that I do expect once again. For Canada, they're trying to find their way at this tournament. They've seen success. They've realized it. Now it's about continuing that success into the next tournament, and especially this one here. Your first game against a tough Finnish team who's known to sort of hang around in games. I think you're going to see Canada really try and put the pedal to the metal, especially early on in this game. We'll see if they can do that. If they can, look for Canada to run out on this one. Once again, though, if Finland can hold on long enough, they're always a dangerous team. So for the Finns in this one, look for them to sort of hold on as long as they can. I do expect Canada to take this one, but the longer this game goes on where it's close, look for Finland to make a move at some point during this one. That's all the games for April 10th. Move on to April 11th now with Japan taking on Hungary. Similar to what we talked about. These will be two teams playing very similar styles where Japan struggles to score. Hungary doesn't score a lot of goals. They both play very good defensively. I'm going to take Japan here 2-0. I just think the way Japan plays, they're going to be able to get into those corners. You'll probably see, a 1-0 game with the empty net, or a very tight 2-0 game where really could go either way for the majority of this one. I don't expect Japan to come out to an early lead, but if there is one team at this tournament, with the exception of maybe Norway, Hungary is that team. So we'll see if Japan's able to penetrate the middle of the ice. Once again, we talked about it in yesterday's preview, where Japan has always had trouble scoring goals. So we'll see in this tournament how quickly and how their ability is on scoring goals. If they can score goals in plenty, this Japanese team is a team that probably could contend with some of the bigger teams at this tournament. But if they can't score goals, which we've seen them have a problem with these last few years, then they're not going to stand a shot. So I'm going to take Japan here 2-0. I think just from what we've seen, we'll play it safe. Japan with the 2-0 victory over Hungary. Very defensive game in this one. We went to the second game of the day, a little bit less defensive, with Canada beating Switzerland 7-0. And I think this game, Switzerland at this tournament is kind of on their last legs. And even in Group A, we saw it last year with the Germany game where they're kind of just holding on as long as they can. Yes, the groups are going back to the snake draft, sort of the way that they do it in all the men's tournaments. But at the same time, for Switzerland, they're a team that unfortunately has kind of seen their time come. And I think when we look at the placement game later on in this tournament, they're a team that I'm going to bring up as one that might not be sticking around in the top group anymore. Obviously, once again, as I mentioned, they are getting rid of that. But at the same time, that top five that we normally see solidified to that Group A, I don't expect that to continue for Switzerland at this tournament. So 7-0 for me. Canada will take this one. Then to the third game of the day here, USA 4, Czechs 1. And in this game, I think we've sort of seen it with this Czech team where they play really well. They play very good defensive hockey. They're not necessarily going to get a lot of offensive opportunities, but the ones they tend to bury. So we'll see in this one if the Czechs are able to hold the U.S. I think this Czech team, especially on home ice this year, has taken another big step in their development. So we'll see whether or not that is the case, and if the Czechs actually do stand a shot at this tournament in terms of going for gold. Obviously, they're definitely bronze medal contenders, but the question is, can they get through those big two with the U.S. and Canada? Time will see, and we'll talk about a potential one in a few minutes here. But April 12th, 2 games on the slate. Norway plays Germany. I'm going to take Germany here 5-0. Norway is a team that I don't really know what to expect from them at this tournament. I don't know whether they'll be high goal scoring team. I highly doubt they will. But I do expect them to compete at the very least. I think this German team, though, is going to find their groove, especially towards the end of this tournament. And I think this German team is where you're going to see them really make their mark. I think this game is going to be that starting point for them. And I think, once again, 5-0 is going to be your margin here against a relatively new Norway team into the top group. Then we continue here with the Czechs taking on Finland here. I'm going to take Czechia 3-1 in this one. And the Czechs, once again, we talked about it. They're a team that have consistently grown. I think Finland here is going to put up a good fight against the Czechs. Both teams play fairly similar styles of hockey, and we'll see if that defensive style comes into play in this game like we've seen it in years past. So as far as the Czechs, I expect them to definitely make a mark at this tournament, especially on home ice. You're going to hear me saying it a lot, but the home ice advantage is a thing, and especially for this Czech team. We just saw it with the Men's World Championship last year where the Czechs ended up winning it. I expect very similar results this year. Might not be a gold medal, but something close, to say the least. Then April 13th, we go with Hungary taking on Norway. I'm going to take Hungary here 2-1. And in this game, these are two teams that are battling it out. Obviously, with the relegation spot on the line, I don't know if they're going to be able to avoid it. But at the same time, Hungary here is a team that has always sort of shown that chippiness and ability to play in tight games. I think this will be no different. Same with Norway, who are kind of coming up, trying to find their groove. I think this game against Hungary is going to be a crucial one for them. If they want any shot at even a chance at the quarterfinals. Same with Hungary. If they want any shot, they need to win this game. So for both these teams, big game. I'm going to take Hungary here 2-1 just based off what we've seen, especially in the qualifiers. I think that'll be one of the things that I'm most paying attention to off the top of this tournament is what's going on in Group B. Obviously, Group A is a little bit predetermined, more or less. But I do think that this game here with Germany and Hungary is going to be a big one. So Norway and Hungary is going to be a big one. So keep an eye out for that one. Second game of the day between Sweden and Japan. I'm going to take Sweden here 5-1. I just think the way Sweden plays, obviously Japan's a good team. They can control the puck for most of the game, but they do find little lapses in play, and that's where Sweden really capitalizes on. And I think as much as Japan might be able to keep up with a team like Sweden, I think Sweden's offensive firepower just separates them that much more, which will lead to their victory here, a 5-1 score at that. Then we move on here to the US-Canada game. Yeah, I know it hurts me. Don't worry, I got one more for Canadian fans coming up in just a second here. I'm going to take the US here 3-2 in overtime, and I don't know what it is about the round robin play and the US team and against Canada, but it always seems like the US takes the first one and Canada takes the one that matters. So we'll see in this one if it's similar, and we'll talk about Canada's back-to-back here in a second, but in my eyes, I have to think that trend will probably continue. I do think that the U.S. team is slightly better on paper this year. We talked about it last year, how the U.S. went for a more college-based approach, a younger approach, trying to play for those 26 Olympics, where Canada's kind of on their last ride with their players. And we're sort of going to see that once again, is it the veteran leadership, that professional PWHL style, or is it the young guns, is it the college kids that are going to make their mark at this tournament? I think, once again, this game will be one that a lot of people are going to be watching for. I don't know how this will look in the grand scheme of it. Obviously, it determines that top spot in Group A, likely assuming nothing else goes awry. But at the same time, Canada, U.S., always a game to come for. I'm going to give the first one to the U.S. here, 3-2 in overtime. Then we'll move on to April 14th with Germany taking on Hungary. I'll take a 3-0 victory for Germany here. They did play each other in the qualifiers. Big game at that, with Germany edging Hungary out. But I do expect that sort of revenge game style for Hungary, and we'll see how well Germany can play, especially in those early minutes. I expect Hungary as a team who, if they're going to have any shot in this game, they got to get out to that early lead. They have to control pace, especially early. I just don't see that happening against a tough German team, so I'm going to take Germany here 3-0. Then the second game of the day, we go with Finland taking on Switzerland. I'm going to take Finland here 4-1. And once again, sort of a diminishing. Both these teams are kind of running out. They're obviously replenishing. But Finland here, not quite what they once were. Switzerland sort of fading out as well. I'm going to take Finland here 4-1. I still think you see a good matchup between these two teams. It always seems to be a good game. But I am going to give the edge to Finland here. 4-1 is your score. And then, yes, you did read that correctly. I am taking Canada to beat the Czechs in overtime. Yes, I don't know what it is about the Czechs on home ice that intrigues me so much. You know, you can think back to last year with the relative blowout victory over the Czechs for Canada. But I just think something's different with this Czech team this year. And I don't know whether it's going to come against the US. I don't know whether it's going to come against Canada. But I do think that one of these big powerhouses is in for a scare, and it would not surprise me to see this game go into overtime for either of those two. So I'm going to take the overtime game for Canada because I'm sick of being wrong as the Canadian against the Czechs, because I seem to always mess that one up. So I'm going to once again take Canada, but I'm going to take them in overtime. I'm not as confident as I once was in this women's division, especially with these up-and-coming Czech team. But at the same time, I do still think Canada takes this game, so I'm going to give them a 3-2 overtime victory here, ending their round-robin play for Canada. Move on now to April 15th, where Sweden takes on Norway, and I'm going to give Sweden here the 6-1 victory once again. Norway, not really the team who I'm expecting to contend in this tournament. I think that they'll have some moments here and there, but I do think Sweden is just that much better of a team. So I'm expecting Sweden to really take this game here. They do have way better firepower. So I'm expecting Sweden to definitely make a mark in this game and try and build that momentum into the quarterfinal round. Then the second game of the day, we go with Germany taking on Japan. I'm going to take Germany here 4-1. And once again, we talked about it a little bit with Japan. They're a team who has trouble scoring goals, and I think that's going to be a real thorn in their side in this game especially. I think they'll both have opportunities here with Germany and Japan, who likely will trade some chances throughout this game. I just think that the lack of scoring from Japan is really going to set it apart here with Germany finding their groove, especially late in this tournament. So I'm going to give Germany here the 4-1 victory. Then to the last game of the round robin we go on April 15th at the 1 o'clock slot, where we have the U.S. taking on Switzerland. I'm going to give the U.S. the 6-2 victory here. Really could be more. I expect the U.S. still to win this game, but you really never know with the Swiss team because they're not expected to do much at this tournament. But I have been wrong in the past. But all that being said, let's talk about the standings now, because we do have the end of the round robin, which gives us Germany in first place with 12 points in Group B, Sweden in second place with 9 points, Japan in third place with 6, Hungary in fourth with 3, and Norway in last place in Group B with 0. Remember, the bottom two teams in Group B both get relegated, which means Hungary and Norway will be relegated. Then to Group A we go, with the U.S. Having 11 points, topping Group A. Canada with 9 points in second, Czechs in third place with 7, Finland in fourth place with 3, and Switzerland in last place in Group A with no points from the round robin. That moves us on to the playoff picture, and that takes us to April 17th, and your matchups are going to be the U.S. playing Japan, Finland playing Switzerland, Germany playing the Czechs, and Canada playing Sweden. So we start here with the U.S.-Japan game. I'm going to take 11-0 victory for the U.S. over Japan. I just think that this U.S. team is ready, and they're roaring to go, and especially against a Japanese team who struggles finding the back of the net, but also when they're playing against faster teams who can control the pace. Japan's really only opportunity is to control the pace, and I don't see them doing that against a tough U.S. team. So I'm going to give the blowout victory, and really one of the first big blowouts we've seen. Yes, the Canada one kind of, but I think the U.S. Will really blow this game out against Japan. So 11-0 is your final there. Then move on to the Finland-Switzerland game, and I'm going to take Finland here 3-0 over Switzerland. I think this game will be a lot more defensive-minded. I think as well, you're kind of in that zone where it's that quarterfinal matchup we're so accustomed to seeing. It would not surprise me to see both teams sort of grip the stick a little bit more, and that's what we've seen in years past in these quarterfinal games, is that the scores either go complete blowout or they get close. And I think this game will be a little bit closer for Finland, end up taking this one 3-0, probably 2-0 with the empty net to really wrap it up. Then to the third game of the day we go with Czechs playing Germany. I'm going to take the Czechs here 3-1 on home ice. I think this German team is a real underrated team here, but at the same time, I can't take Germany all the way. I'm going to take the Czechs here to take out Germany 3-1 as your final. And then Canada playing Sweden, another rematch from last year. I'm going to take Canada once again, 6-2 as your final. I just think Sweden's a team that likes to play in control. I just don't see them getting control against Canada. I think Canada sort of backs them off a little bit. I think you see a tight game, especially early in this one. And then I think as the game goes on, where you see Canada slowly but surely take control of this one and eventually take out a tough Swedish team. Brings us to the semifinal and placement games on April 19th. We'll start with the placement game. Remember that there is no Group A or B next year. They just sort of do the snake draft, as we've seen in the men's side, where it goes 1, then in Group A, 2, 3 in Group B, 4, 5 in Group A, 6, 7 in Group B, 8, 9 in Group A, and then 10 in Group B. So you'll see that come into play next year, or 2 years, or whenever the next one is, as obviously the Olympics are coming up. So typically they don't have one during the Olympic year, but we will see whether or not that's the case. April 19th we go with the placement game. Germany against Switzerland as the 5th and 6th ranked teams at the time of this game, coming up at 5 a.m. on April 19th. I do expect Germany to take this game. They were close last year. They played real well in that placement game, just falling short. I think this year they do finally do it, taking this one 3-1 as your final. I think this game will be a tight game right to the very end. We're not surprised to see that third goal be an empty net goal. But the truth is, Germany is just that much better of a team in my eyes than the Swiss, and I think the Swiss are slowly but surely phasing out. And I think that's where we see Germany really take that next step. Would not surprise me also to see Sweden there. It really is going to come down to who takes that first game of the tournament, right, between Germany and Sweden. I think the winner of that likely ends up in that 5th place, but time will certainly tell on that one because we haven't really seen these teams in action yet. I will be curious to see, especially in this first game against Germany and Sweden, who comes out to play, because if Sweden gets out to that victory, it's a dangerous tournament for Sweden. I think they very well could make it far. It's just a matter of how far at that point. So I'm taking Germany here in that 5th spot. Switzerland will move to the 6th spot. Then to the semifinals we go with the U.S. taking on Finland. I'm going to take the U.S. here. 4-1 is your winner. I think, once again, I think it's a little bit tighter of a game in the semifinal. Yes, the U.S. still is going to control most of the game in this one, and I think they will end up being the victor. And as much as the score might be close, I do expect this game to be relatively lopsided here. But you really never know with this Finnish team. The longer they can stick around, the more dangerous they get. So very similarly to this Czech game we're going to talk about here in a second, I do expect the U.S. to take it. Then the Canada game, Canada plays the Czechs. And in this one, I do expect Canada to win this one. 4-2 is going to be my score. You might remember back to the round robin where I took them in overtime. I just think in this one, Canada, although it's going to be close, is going to remember that they do have to play a full 60 minutes here, and I think they are going to win this one. Might be a 3-2 game with the empty netter, might be 4-2 on its own, but although the home crowd might give the Czechs that much of a boost, I think it's still not enough to beat Canada in the semifinals. So I'm going to take Canada here 4-2, moving both Canada and the U.S. into the gold, sending Czechs and Finland into the bronze medal game, which then brings us to the bronze medal game on April 20th at 8 a.m., where I'm going to take the Czechs to win 4-2 over Finland. And these two teams have seen quite a bit of each other these last few years, but I do expect the Czechs to take this game. They are, in my eyes, the better team over Finland. I do think, especially on home ice, it just sets them that much over the top. So they're going to be your bronze medalists, at least what I think. And then to the gold medal game we go. I'm going to take Canada to win over the U.S. 3-2 in overtime. I know, surprise, surprise. Same score as the other one, just the other way around. So in my eyes, that's what it's going to be. Your final rankings will be Canada in 1st, U.S. in 2nd, Czechs in 3rd, Finland in 4th, Germany in 5th, Switzerland in 6th, Sweden in 7th, Japan in 8th, Hungary in 9th, and Norway in 10th will be your final rankings for this tournament. Those are my predictions. Let me know down below whether you disagree with me, because I'm sure there are quite a few games, including the Czech one against Canada, that you may disagree with. But with that, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you really like, consider subscribing. Tell all your friends. Let me know your thoughts on the 2025 World Championship. Until next time, see you.